We have a problem in the game. A lot of salty hunter mains for PvE purposes are starting to lose their composure. Before we begin with the video, let's step into my solo office. Do you like what I've done with the place? I'm upgraded. Zavala promoted me. As of today, he said, look, C91, I'm not using my office because I'm looking out at the last city. And he's been looking out at the last city, Zavala, for the last 8 years. So he said, what the hell? You can occupy my office as your solo office and you are permanently upgraded and promoted. Look at this. I'm tracking salt mine clears. Look at that. Fail coming in at 3 minutes 02. That's all the fastest salt mine clears. Somebody ran a salt mines at 2 minutes and 8 seconds. You see this user and time. Salt mine clears that. I've got a little laptop on for it. So yeah, step into my solo office. I hope you like the place. So now we can begin with the topic of the video, that being the state of hunters in PvE. The stats I'm about to show you are linked to the website called light.gg. If you disagree with any of these stats or you don't trust them, I recommend you read the frequently asked questions or FAQ section on light.gg on their loadout analytics page to get a further insight on how they collect data. Bungie are not cut and dry when they release their API information to third-party sites. In other words, third-party sites have to go round the houses to collect certain data and are not exact percentages, but rather snapshots of certain times throughout the game on what loadouts are used. If you disagree with anything, then you contact light.gg. It's not my problem. I'm just telling you what it is. The most popular classes in PvE as of right now in the game. This snapshot was taken yesterday, if you're really going to hold me down to it. Yeah, as of yesterday, which these numbers are not going to change, not until Renegades. Warlock is overwhelmingly the most popular class in the game at 45% use. Titan is actually second at 33% use, almost 34%. And dead last is Hunters at 20%. This is for PvE, all PvE, raids, dungeons, everything, portal, everything. This is everything all together for PvE only. We're not talking PvP here at all. The most popular subclasses in the game are as follows. Prismatic Warlock is the most used subclass, rolling in at 25%. It is the most popular subclass in the game. Number 2, surprisingly, is Hunters. Prismatic Hunter, that being, at 10%. Isn't that surprising, lads? So even though Hunter's not that popular, the Prismatic Hunter is popular. Third place is Dawnblade at 9%. Then we've got fourth place, 7.5% for Sunbreaker. And 7.4% for Prismatic Titan. You can roll those two numbers into one, and that's 15%. So you've got Titan mains split exactly down the line between, do they run Worm God Fists on Sunbreaker, or do they use Consecration Titan? That's actually very interesting, because it's actually making Titans decide, are they going to do a Prismatic Titan or Solar Titan? I would say the numbers are elevated for that, because Salt Mines, the best class for Salt Mines, solo at least, was Worm God's Solar Titan. So now you've had that. Now you've got a broad understanding of what people are actually using, right, in PvE. To take this a step further, or insult to injury to Hunter mains, the recent patch notes or insight to what's going to happen in Renegades for exotic armor pieces and such is overwhelmingly powerful to the Warlock. The Warlock is about to become probably the best class in the game. However, let's not understate the use of Prismatic Titan and what it can do. Prismatic Titan, and Stasis Titan for that matter, but for the top of the video we're just talking Prismatic Titan. Prismatic Titan was the best class in the game for Conquest Avalon. The hardest mission in the game right now in this era is Conquest Avalon. And the best class for it is Prismatic Titan, overwhelmingly. Or the Titan class. So I think Titans are still objectively the best class in the game, but after the changes that's going to go live, Warlock's going to get they're going to get a Curious of the Fallen Star for Needlestorm. Needlestorm's already powerful in the game. So Warlock's going to get DPS. It's going to get Winter's Guile for a melee-centric build to be competitive with melee Titan builds. Warlock's getting everything. It's got survivability, it's got DPS, and it's got all-round utility gameplay. It got buddy build buff. It's gotten so many buffs. The Warlock is overwhelmingly going to be the most popular class in Renegades, as far as I can see. However, Titan is getting a jetpack. Let's not forget that, and that's sexy. If Bungie offers a sexy exotic to a class, it will artificially bump up that class. So it is going to be a bit of a toss between Titan and Warlock on the popularity factor. However, as you saw there, Prismatic Hunter is very popular. Yeah? And that's for good reason, because, well, it is a very good class, is Prismatic Hunter. It has a class item called Inmost Light Cryo, or Surtarachne. There we go, I've got the pronunciation right. Surtarachne. There you go, look. This is the most popular because it gives Woven Mail and ability spam on Transcendence gameplay. So Prismatic Hunter is in a very good spot. In actual fact, I would go as far to say as Prismatic Hunter has actually gotten buffs since post Edge of Fate. It's actually gotten better than what it was, and it was already very good. So do you understand that Prismatic Hunter is actually in a very good spot, and there's a lot of good things about it. Hunters are going to get a buff to Still Hunt and Celestial Nighthawk, which is a nice thing. However, if you read this post coming up, we're going to explain to you why Hunters are still salty. So let's read up this Reddit post. It is by a user of the name going by pman1324. This was I looked at this yesterday, right? So this is relevant to this week. No shade at this Reddit user. I don't know who he is. I probably agree with a lot of things he's saying. But let's just read on what a lot of Hunter mains are saying after all of the changes that is going to happen with the classes. Here's what he reads. There's only one thing I want to hear from the ability tuning article Thursday regarding Hunter. This is what he wanted to hear. Or he wants to hear. Hunters, we have seen talk around the community about wanting a greater focus on PvE performance, and we agree. We'll be focusing our efforts on improving Hunter's performance outside of the Crucible going forward. And then all of us Hunter mains can collectively be dumbfounded and say, what do you mean, you weren't doing that before, lol? Here are the 3 major problems I see with Hunter's design philosophy. Ooh, this is a hot take, this one. Chain to the Crucible. What have I been saying for years? Chain to the Crucible. We all saw that line in Exotic Armor Tune article. Shax is watching, and I'm sure many of you, like myself, audibly groaned at that. It sucks having our balance changes orbit around the Crucible, and we are sick of it. Hunter mains are sick of it. Exotic overlap, second core issue. There are numerous sets of exotic on Hunter that are overlapping effects. We have no less than 4 reload exotics, 3 arc super exotics, 3 solar knife exotics, and 4 invisibility exotics. It's getting old. All this overlap, and it makes build crafting feel stale, faster, not to mention the invulnerable missed opportunities. Sorry, I might have mispronounced that. Core issue number 3. Now, this is where he really goes to town, this lad. P-Man, look at this legend here. Convolution and dysfunction. TDLR kit press pieces on Hunter typically don't just work. They require setup, whereas similar effects on the other classes do not. Many pieces of Hunter subclass kits and exotics require you to kill things, which do not scale well into higher difficulty activities. I think I remember a line in the Armor Tune article that mentioned that for Warlock Briarbinds. Oh, the irony, considering the Hunter exotic legs coming in Renegades also demand kills, even if you can just wait for the effect to start. A number of Hunter's kit pieces are also highly convoluted with sometimes unreasonably specific activation conditions. An example of this is being Grafalcon's secondary effect activation to gain an overshield and increased weapon damage, requiring you to perform a finisher while invisible. If you don't already know, if you are invisible, you can't perform any action without it cancelling the effect. So an enemy must already be in finisher range before you go invisible. There are more other such cases of convolution in the Hunter kit, and it is highly limiting. The more convolution that exists in a kit, the more opportunities for dysfunction or clashing on effects. There you go. So that's the legend that is, who his name is. I hope he's watching this video. P-Man1324. We might bump into him, because the D2 community is a small world now. Right, so he has a lot of key points. Yeah, we agree with most of it. However, what we need to realise for Hunter mains for PvE, you've got to know what's good for you, and you've got to spec into what is actually good and what will work for you. The problem with what Bungie is doing is they are trying to buff a subclass that is basically non-usable right now, and that being Nightstalker. They're trying to buff other things like Lucky Raspberry and stuff, we know this, but I'm talking about Nightstalker here. They're trying to buff a class that needs that much amount of help that I don't think it's going to be anywhere near meta anyways. So what, that's getting ability recharges and stuff. It needs better abilities. As the guy said, when you're invis, if you go back into combat, you break your invis and then you will die. Right? The game right now is in a damage resist meta. We want DR, 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 DR. We don't really care about anything else. We want good ad clear, good DR, good DPS. Warlock and Titans do that. Hunters can do it, but in different ways. So the problem with why people are so salty is because Nightstalker is in a terrible shape. It's based on the old sandbox of D2. Nightstalker is based back in 2020. It's 4 years out of date. On the Prowl got updated, but don't worry about On the Prowl and stuff. It's nowhere near where it needs to be. Yeah, on a foundation basis, Nightstalker's almost useless in the game. That's where we come back to what we need to be thinking about. Now, this is my perspective. Solo Flawless Dungeons. I am starting to get now my mind into Solo Flawless Dungeons because we're getting a new dungeon called Equilibrium in Renegades. Now then, the Bungie raid and dungeon team have been cooking for the last 3 or 4 years. They have not missed a beat for the last 3 or 4 years. They have been successfully raising the bar for dungeons raids constantly. That team in particular has done very well. Talking more about dungeons, when you want to solo flawless it, how many hunter mains of those hunters are solo players? I would argue not many of them, right? They're struggling. Let me give you examples. Let's roll the clock back to the Vesper's Host dungeon. That dungeon came out. The Master of Puppeteer is the golden standard for a boss that you would solo flawless. He's one of the most difficult bosses to solo flawless. Because there's lightning strikes, you need survivability, you need DPS, you need all sorts of things. You can do it on Prismatic Hunter. That's not the point though. Week 1 of Vesper's Host, because I was there, the only decent hunter I saw solo flawless Vesper's Host was ATP. All the players, because he's the only hunter adept player that I can see who's actually successful on a hunter. Everybody else couldn't do it. Not to mention Hunter was bugged. Teva was bugged in that dungeon. Overwhelmingly, all the solo flawlesses during week 1 of Vesper's Host was Titan Warlock because they have better survivability and better kits. Yeah? Then you roll the clock forward again. Sundred Doctrine, only 6 months later. Same thing happens again. No hunters can solo flawless it, only ATP. Because he's the only guy who's adept enough to do it. On a hunter. Same issues arise. Hunters start to cry in PvE. When a new dungeon comes out and you cannot solo flawless it, the hunter complaints rise. Now then, this is where it comes back, and this is where the video is going to all circle into one thing. This hunter I'm showing you today, which this guy never mentioned, he probably isn't aware of it, and he should be, is the Speed Loader Slack DOT build. That is good. It's as good as a Warlock build or a Titan build of many different things. You can solo sustain DPS, dungeon bosses, and stay alive. I've got the footage to prove it. I will show you footage of me doing solo DPS on this build against the Master of the Puppeteer and Kev from Sunday Doctrine. Those are the two most hardest dungeon bosses to solo flawless. Right, so if we just bring up the world, it looks like I'm going to have to go to Orbiter. I'm not going to. You know where the dungeons are, don't you? So you know Kev from Sunday Doctrine. Do you know who Kev is? Yeah? With the shackle guy. And the Master of the Puppeteer from Vesper's Host with all the lightning strikes. So I'm proving to you with this build, this is a very successful build to solo flawless a new dungeon that comes out. Now, we don't know what the boss design for Equilibrium will be. However, this build is going to work in every circumstance, and as long as Bungie does not touch it, which I believe they will not, then this is going to be a fantastic build. Yes, it's not going to do Nighthawk still hunt damage, but we don't know what the boss design will be. We might not be maybe using that. We don't know, right? But this build, with the speed loader slacks, and why it's so important to the game is, dealing sustained damage grants class ability energy. Right, does that sound like a lot? No, it doesn't. But what you need to understand with the class stat is it's damage resist. It's a slider. So any stat over 100 stat will give you 70% damage resist. However, if you're only 120 or 110, it's only 20% of an overshield. It scales like that. All the way to 200 is an overshield that's maximum. So if you rock a 200 class stat on this build, you are getting more DR. You get more damage resist. And it stacks with Woven Mail. Woven Mail is a 45% damage resist. Yes, and the class stat is even higher than that at a 70% damage resist. It's higher than Woven Mail, don't you understand? The reason why this Hunter build is so important as well is because it's very simplified to build out. You just need some super stat, high class stat, and high weapon stat. You need to understand that when you are solo flawless in a dungeon, and that being equilibrium, you're going to need a high weapon stat. There's so many people throwing and not using the weapon stat properly. And people are complaining about ammo generation, and they're saying that they should use ammo generation mods. If you rock a high weapon stat, you're getting all the ammo that you would ever want. People are going different ways about it. They're doing this. Watch. You've heard the build. You've heard the build. What you doing? Dudes, if you're doing any of this sort of stuff, you are really, really, really in my bad books. You should never use ammo generation mods in day 1 content or difficult solo flawless dungeon content ever. You only use ammo generation mods in easy activities like solo flawless salt mines. That's the only time you would ever use it. You just don't. Your resistance mods are critical. Your concussive dampener is the hands down best all-round resistance mod in the game for chest plate armor. You should always be using this on difficult content, because we are talking difficult content here. So just to break down what the build is actually, because I've broken it down many times, but I need to do it again, because there's hunters that on Reddit that don't even know about it. Yeah, we got Marksman's Dodge for the lower cooldown. Threaded Spike severs targets, which actually makes you more tanky, because the boss will hit you not as hard. Grapple melee, but we can change nades and stuff, but we're using grapple in this situation. Threaded Spectre for clone, and Ensnare and Slam, which gives you the Woven Mail. You can spam Woven Mail with the Speed Loader Slacks DOT build. You do go with Clone, because Clone adds more survivability on a solo flawless basis. Well, Maelstrom's nice, but that's just, you don't need it. Seriously, it's clone all the way with this. I've tested this build now for over a month, and I'm determined that it is clone. Because it de-aggroes all enemies, it's so important. Thread of Generation for your grenade energy. Thread of Wisdom for Orbs of Power. Thread of Mind for more class ability energy. Thread of Warding for more Woven Mail. Thread of Continuity so that your suspends and stuff last longer. Your sever lasts longer. This is hands down the build that I would run to solo flawless a new dungeon. I would go into it blind with this. This is the build because it's an all-rounder. It's doing tremendous amount of survivability, and you can sustain damage a boss. So I'm going to show you that footage coming up. Now then, you've got 1 day to get this damn crossbow or whatever. You need to get the god roll for the hunter is charge bolts, auto unholster, chill clip. Aggregate charge doesn't proc much on this pure strand. Aggregate charge is amazing, but it doesn't proc much. Chill clip better. Auto unholster. Because you can fire your crossbow twice. I've showed you how you can rapid fire this bow. Think of submersion as a rocket launcher. If you think of it like that as an auto and rocket launcher, you'll think better about it. And pair it with new Malpais. New Malpais is not getting nerfed. Only Mint Renegade is getting slight ammo nerf. But the pairing between new Malpais and submersion is very good for solo sustained DPS. And I'll prove it to you. Right? We'll prove it to you in the forthcoming clips. So I hope you understand that. This is one of your last hopes, hunters. Obviously, Prismatic Hunter, you use that as well. Day 1 content, we always use this stuff in most like cryo. But what I will tell you is, this gives Woven Mail, but so does my build. My Speed Loader Slacks build's giving Woven Mail constantly, over and over and over. Yeah, so people have a high judgment of this class item. Yeah, I understand that. But you should have a high judgment of Speed Loader Slacks as well. It's incredibly powerful. In my opinion, it's top 3 builds on Hunter for me. Yeah, it has changed the way I play Hunter, and I think Hunter mains need to take a piece of information away from this, is that you should be playing this build, right? You can play like a Warlock or a Titan on a Hunter. Also to note, Surges add more damage than her font, so if you rock a weapon font mod on the new dungeon, yeah, that's less damage than what it would be by just using fonts, by Surges. Surges are more damage bumps. They offer more damage. So yeah, next couple of common clips, I'm just going to show you solo sustained DPS against two of the most difficult dungeon bosses to DPS without a Well of Radiance or or Prismatic or whatever it might be. Yeah, just to prove the point of that, Hunters, it's, I understand that why you're angry and stuff, right? Just come over to Warlock then, main Warlock. Nah, I'm only joking. We do want to look after our Hunters as best as we can. So clips are going to just show you and proving that the build does in fact work in sort of difficult dungeons. Okay, so first clip of Speedloader Slack's DOT testing it on the golden standard, that is the Puppeteer, to show you it on a DPS rotation, how it can still stay alive. So look at that, we can shoot the boss with the crossbow for DOT, to pay attention to class ability the entire time throughout this. Look, I get my class ability back, I get weak, yeah, do DOT crossbow, boom, look at that overshield. I'm rocking a very high overshield on this one because I needed it. But just look at the survivability that we're doing here. This is nice. We're going to get weak. We've got our dodge again. Look. And we keep crossbowing and doing new Malpais damage against this boss. The ads are hitting me very hard. I'm glad about that because just look at the amount of survivability I'm getting here. This is very important to understand Hunter mains. This is probably my most important Hunter main video that you're going to get before Renegades. Now just watch how good this is. We grapple melee. We use Silk Strikes, it's a throwaway ability. I retrieve all my ammo. I retrieved all my crossbow ammo for phase 2 of Puppeteer. Then we use Silk Strike, keep diving, you keep getting your dives and your overshields. I kill the VIP in middle, get the battery, and just look at that. Whilst we're not doing a tremendous amount of damage on this clip, it does prove one thing, that the survivability of this build is off the charts. It's like having a Well of Radiance on Hunter. Maybe not as much as that, but you understand you can stand your ground on the build. Hunters have never been able to stand their ground. Very rare, very rare. Okay? Just look at this. We can DOT bolt. We can double crossbow. If crossbows get a buff, by the way, next month, which I'm suspicious they do, right? Because we're getting a Star Wars crossbow, then crossbows are going to be starting to come into that meta option of use. People have already made videos about it. I've just got Wyvern-Gaze Primer here, but I'm just showing you, look at the amount of survivability. I'm getting weak. I know I've got an emergency button, look, watch, boom, overshield, 70% DR, plus 45% DR from Woven Mill. That's our damage, it's probably subpar damage, because my rotation wasn't perfect or whatever, but getting to E damage is generally a nice call for that. So, it's passing the test for survivability. There we go, same goes with Kev. I'm gonna play more aggressive with Kev, just to show you how really good it is. Yeah, Hunters struggled to solo DPS's boss. They really did struggle week 1 of Sundry Doctrine. Look at this build. Look at what we're doing. This is only, a few months later on. Okay, so just watch this. Shield goes down, Wyvern-Gaze goes in. Double bow shot. Boss is misbehaving maybe. Yeah, just keep doing my new Malpais. I can detonate. I've got a overshield at any moment to do. Yeah, this boss is tanky, by the way. Kev is very tank. So don't judge the DPS too heavily. It's to point out that I can DPS this boss safely, very safely at that point. So look at this. So I'm trying to show you that not only is this build very good for unclear and combatant difficulty, which it is, it's also very good for solo sustained DPS to stay alive during day 1 content and such. Do you see how incredible this is, Hunters? So wipe your tears, Hunters. Get on with it. Yeah, we get what we get. Know what's good for you. This build's extremely good, but obviously Prismatic Hunter is as well. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.